Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to a special episode of Gammabox. It's that time of the year for holiday specials and, more importantly, reruns. My name is Jack Carr, I'm joined by Tom Hunter, and today we're going to be providing some of our 2024 highlight reels for the Microsoft Teams updates. Starting us off, what's new for end users in Teams this year? So firstly, could this be the end of Control-C and Control-V? Users can now forward chat messages directly, so it's going to improve communication clarity and probably eliminate a little bit of time spent manually copy and paste the messages. And then we've only taken 2 points to get here, but on the AI front, we now have intelligent recap in Teams. So AI-powered meeting call recording captures allow for users to gather key points without actually attending the session. So very valuable in today's busy world, although I think we'll be touching a little bit more on that in the later section. Next one is augmented reality backgrounds, right? So this is good for hybrid workers. So, if you're not necessarily in the most tidy home office space, and I'm guilty of this myself, you can adjust lighting, improve visuals, tidy up the room in the background, and give yourself a nice professional appearance. So no matter where you are, you can present yourself in an according manner. That's not just limited to visuals. We also have some audio-based controls that we can lean into there as well. So granular settings to allow users to fine-tune their audio settings for a better call experience. So very good if you're in a busy office environment or if you find yourself on the move too. There's been quite a few updates in the channel space, so this is definitely one worth calling out. So we've seen the easy-to-consume flexibility of social media make an impression on Teams, as Microsoft introduces a new newsfeed style approach to Teams channels. So users will be able to track updates from all their channels all in one place, so it's going to simplify the retrieval of information rather than having to dive into each of those individually. Channels have also changed fairly recently when Teams have introduced a combined chat and channel view. So this is going to give you a more condensed stream of information in the life of a busy user, so where all the activity is upfront right there for you without needing to swap between the tabs. However, if you're someone who maybe doesn't like change or you just preferred how the old view looked, you can separate that again and go back to the classic view of Teams. And lastly, on the end user side, users have a choice around their call preference settings. So previously you had a blanket setting that could be applied for all your calls in terms of where do they go when they're not answered, how long does that ring before another routing protocol takes in place. But you can actually specify now whether that's an internal or an external call. So potentially if you're in a customer facing role, if you're your PSTN calls, potentially they're with your customers or your suppliers, you need to treat them in a slightly different way. So now you can do so. So a few things on the radar there. Tom, anything in particular that jumps out to you?
Yep, there's a few things I probably should have said at the start. Thank you, it's great to be back. But you were in your flow, I didn't want to interrupt you. But no, like you say, you have mentioned a couple of things there. AI did come up. I was wondering how long it would take before we got to that part, but
Never long in this
you never
day
know.
and age.
That might come up again later on. No spoilers.
Good,
But yeah, there's a lot of updates within that are really important. And I mean, ultimately, I think you can boil them all down to users at the end of the day are going to be using Teams day in, day out. It's a platform that they use everything within. Their files are in, their telephony, hopefully, is in as well. So any update, no matter how small, whether it's just quality of life, that is going to improve their experience and ultimately be a good thing. So yes, they may seem small on paper, but ultimately, if it makes the user experience better, that's all you can really ask for. But it's not just the user-specific updates. There have been a fair few admin updates this year. Some really good ones, actually. And again, improving their experience, which then knocks on into the user. So let's take a wee look at some of these ones. Starting with the configuration of maintenance windows within the Teams Admin Center. So this enables IT admins to schedule automatic device updates within the Teams Admin Center, like I say. So this essentially helps to streamline processes, minimize disruptions outside of business hours, essentially. So again, users come in, their devices are all updated, they're not sitting there with a phone that's not working or whatever it may be. And also admins can schedule that automatically rather than having to manually do something and have someone on call essentially out of hours to actually enable those. Yep, real-time telemetry, data and retention as well. So this is actually a new feature of the Teams Premium license. Again, something that will come up a little bit later on. So for this feature, real-time telemetry data is gathered automatically for all users that actually have the Teams Premium license, and it's retained for 7 days. Now, what does that mean? So this can be really useful to help diagnose any sort of call quality issues, and in particular, historic, i.e. past 7 days call quality issues. Now, I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure you are too. you don't raise things. You hope sometimes they will just fix themselves. Tech always has a little wobble every now and then, but sometimes, yes, of course, an hour can turn into a day, can turn into 2 days, can turn into a week. So having that sort of feature there to diagnose those issues and come to the root cause of the problem is actually really powerful and useful. So next up, the federation reporting. So these new reports allow teams, admins to review communication trends for their end users across federated tenancies. So that could certainly be useful, aiding in things like business strategy or operational analysis. And it's always important to have that visibility. And I think this update, again, quite a small one, but it adds to the breadth of the admin capabilities. And ultimately, like I say, gives you that analytical insight into the federation side. And finally, and probably one of the more important ones, meeting privacy controls and policies. Now, another addition to the Teams Premium license, or included within the Teams Premium license, this enhances data security with features like restricting chat forwarding, watermarks on recordings, etc. And essentially, this aims to safeguard the sensitive information that is being shared within meetings across the organization. Now, cybersecurity is an extremely important and hot topic right now. So this feature, again, may sound small, but it is an extremely important step forward in making sure that businesses protect their organization's data. So Jack, I'll send the question back to you now. I appreciate that we're not admins, but is there anything on that list that particularly stands out to yourself?
I think the two that probably stand out to me, and that they are quite different in nature, is the real-time telemetry. So troubleshooting users potentially after the fact. People end up bouncing between calls very frequently, and you just might not have time to raise an IT ticket. You might think it was a one-off, but if it's a periodic drop in call quality for whatever reason, that should be logged. That should be looked at, otherwise it may just not improve. And then the other one would be around the information sensitivity and privacy. It's an ever more pressing need today, and being able to safeguard yourself in a proactive way rather than a reactive way is a good reason to look at things like the Teams Premium license and what that can give you.
Yeah, great insight there. Now, we have gone about 2 minutes again without talking about AI, so let's just go back into it and let's talk about some of the licensing updates that we've seen this year. And again, I think it's fair to say that this is where the bulk of the updates have come from. Some massive things coming out with the licensing side. I know you've got a couple of really interesting things to talk about, but first of all, we've got things like Teams Premium, and with that also, again, AI in the form of Microsoft Copilot. So as it's a hot topic right now, let's have a look at some of those Copilot updates in particular, and then I'll hand back over to you to cover off some of the other ones. So first of all, you did allude to it earlier. I said we'd come back to it. Intelligent recap in meetings. So this, as you say, is AI-powered meetings and call recaps, allowing users to review key points within the meetings, notes, actions, whatever it may be, even if they didn't actually attend the session, had to go, had poor quality, whatever it may be. The intelligent recap utilizes AI to bring all of those together. So you basically have, if you're in the meeting, more of a chance to focus on the meeting without having to manually take notes. Or if you did miss the meeting, you get a nice, concise report, essentially, or minutes of what exactly was spoken about and if there's anything that needs to be actioned. Now, this does include PSTN calls. It includes Teams calls from the mobile app and also meetings as well. And yeah, like I say, the most important part of it is reducing that reliance on sort of taking manual notes or anything like that. It means you can kind of almost let AI be a sort of admin. I don't know the right term for that, but someone who would take the note, a minute taker.
AI is a friend.
Yeah, AI is a friend.
Sat there. Yeah,
it's an unpaid friend who just sits there and listens to what the meeting has to say. And essentially, like I say, it allows you to stay focused within that meeting and be more engaged without the worry of, oh my God, have I missed something? So next, again with the AI side of it, the AI-powered voice isolation technology, again, maybe a bit more catered to people who are on the move a lot, or again, if people are starting to come back into the office more, it could be very useful there. So essentially what this does is it utilizes AI-based advanced noise suppression to isolate the speaker's voice in a noisy environment. So this also includes isolating other human voices as well, enhancing audio quality during calls and meetings. The technology itself recognizes the voice profile that you would create and ensures that only that voice is the one transmitted through the call. So actually getting this set up is really straightforward. It's essentially a quick and secure enrollment process that basically has you reading aloud a short paragraph that can be in 25 different languages to create your voice profile, essentially, that it will recognize. These are unique to you, these voice characteristics, and essentially from there, your voice profile will then be used to enable that voice isolation model and ensure that it's only your voice being transmitted, like I said. So that is the Copilot side. A lot of interesting stuff in there, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come in 2025, but I'm going to pass over to you because I think you've got some of my favorite updates from this year coming up.
I do, and actually there is a bit of crossover between Teams Premium and Copilot, but one of the things I wanted to touch on was, that voice isolation feature, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're brutally honest, it doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world.
No, it doesn't.
But it's incredibly important, and oddly, it's actually really, really important to everybody bar the person who it's applied to. You should never notice it. However, everyone else is seeing a benefit from you taking that time and rolling your voice, and you get to feel like you're in MI6 because you've done a special paragraph around keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that floats your boat, great stuff. But yeah, it's a really, really important one, and I think there are other tech vendors out there who have very, very good voice suppression technology in, and Microsoft taking this step keeps them in the race, right? And we know that Microsoft are set to be competitive within the UCaaS landscape. And features are great, more things for users to play with, but having this kind of strong underlying quality of service, that's really important for me in terms of making sure the platform is robust and competitive in the market. But on Teams Premium front, we've got some good updates there. Teams Premium did exist prior to 2024. However, there were some serious advancements made that are worth calling out. So one, as we discussed, intelligent recap. That being a big one. So obviously you might reduce the need for users within meetings to actually manually take minutes, right? So that means they can probably focus on actually contributing to the discussion rather than just documenting the discussion, right? So that's going to be better. And the benefit of context for those who weren't able to attend the meeting, the ability to see who was speaking at what point in the call. So potentially if it's a business-wide update and you maybe know some of the updates already, you don't need to listen to that bit of the call, but you want to see a director of X department where you actually don't know what's new there. You can just zoom into that point, and then you can get to the information that you don't know. So it can be very strategic in terms of how you use your users' time. Another point around the privacy element. So we talked about it from a cybersecurity perspective, but also from an intellectual property perspective as well, right? So the ability to watermark certain content, things in PowerPoint Live, or whiteboarding sessions where potentially that is the creation of said intelligent property. You want to definitely keep that internal, and you want to keep that under lock and key, as it were. And watermarking is a great way of doing that. And then the big one for me, and I really, really do want to take some time to touch on this, is the Teams Queues app. For those who don't know, the Teams Queues app, that's a new customer-centric interface for users to retrieve phone calls via a hunt group. So it starts to blur the lines between Teams, which is primarily known as a historic back office administrative UCaaS platform that can do phone calls, to this can really manage your customer interactions. It can give you a lot more flexibility, a lot more visibility, and a lot of the MI that you need to actually run a call center. It enables a more all-encompassing view for your end users as well as your supervisors. You can see reflected statuses and who's in a call queue at any one time, as well as surfacing the relevant information that's normally sort of hidden behind those admin portals, or has been historically. And then there's also the point around supervisor functionality, right? So you want to see what's happening in terms of quality assurance within your call queues, and with that you can listen in, whisper, and barge when necessary. Hopefully it's not. If assistance is needed by another agent. So it really breaks down that line between UCaaS and CCaaS a little bit there in the voice space. It doesn't do anything outside of voice. There's no omni-channel here. Microsoft aren't making a play for that with this function. However, it does serve as a very cost-effective way of enhancing that customer experience.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I did allude to it earlier. I think that is my favourite update for this year. And I think the key thing is that we speak to customers on a daily basis, and some people do just like the Teams functionality, as in the call queues, the auto attendance, whatever they may be. But some people would like a little bit more, something that's not a contact center, but does, like you say, sit within that grey area, that middle ground, something that does blur the lines between the two and gives them that little bit of extra functionality to be able to support that. And I think the Queues app has certainly been something that has absolutely achieved that. Now, it's only just gone GA, so I suspect that we'll see a lot more and have a lot more conversations about it coming into 2025. But I'm interested to see what the updates are, for one, and the actual uptake of it is going into the new year. Because I think it will be something that's quite important. Again, though, the only drawback, or one of the drawbacks that we can see so far, is that it's not omni-channel. It is very much utilising Teams' existing functionality, enhancing it slightly, but not to the point of a full-fledged contact centre. But again, you're already paying for sort of Teams licenses, and if you do go down the premium route, you do get a number of benefits, Queues app being one of them. And I think it's a great addition to keep everything in one single platform.
I'm going to make a bold claim. I think if you're an organization that has a customer-facing arm, but you're not ready to embrace full omni-channel capability and invest in a strategic contact center, I think the Teams Queues app could be the number one value driver for the Teams premium license. I really do believe in it. I think it's got a lot of potential to change how Teams is used generally in terms of telephony. And even if it's not an external customer, you may wish to consider this for your internal customers. So something like an IT help desk.
Yep.
Where you do need that call routing functionality and the visibility, and the MI and the supervisor capability, but you don't need that full omni-channel experience. I think this is a good way of doing it. There is one more point to cover off in terms of licensing, and that is a fairly recent one this year in terms of a split between the Teams and Microsoft 365 licensing. So this is an important one to call out, especially if you're an existing Teams-based organization today. So the decoupling of Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 and Office 365, this was done for regulatory compliance around issues of market dominance and fair competition. The important bits are, when you're renewing your Microsoft licensing, if you are on Teams today, you should consult your Microsoft licensing provider to make sure that Teams is still continued within the SKU that you're buying. That sounds a bit negative, and I don't want it to be negative. So one positive could be is that if you haven't adopted M365 as your tooling and the backbone of your tech stack within your organizations, this could actually potentially open the door to buying Teams as a standalone product, not the M365 suite, just Microsoft Teams as a standalone UCaaS platform, and then potentially licensing that for telephony as well. This opens the door, and you don't need to invest in the full M365 suite. So, that is something that we could see in the market. It's early days, and we don't know what the uptake of that's going to be yet, but that is something that potentially we could see. Now, that was all my updates for the day, Tom. And, you've mentioned your favorite update being the Teams Queues app. I think for me, one of us had to say AI, right? But Copilot,
we
for
couldn't
me,
not.
it's going to be everything. I think you can't view it as a single platform or feature or anything like that. I think it's going to be almost laced through everything going forwards. I'd be surprised if we get a major update next year that doesn't have some level of AI integration. So willing to be proved wrong, but that's my take on it, is that it's an exciting prospect, and I think it's ultimately going to, as long as it's got the right responsible AI frameworks in place, it's not picking up bad habits. We know that bad in equals bad out.
Yep.
But as long as that data is controlled and held in a responsible way, I think it only improves whatever update does come next.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward, you're saying that 2025 is the year where AI, especially in the Microsoft world, is going to be the big thing. Not even the next big thing, the biggest thing that is out right now and ready to use.
Did we say that about this year as well?
Maybe, I don't know.
I can't remember. And I don't think we were wrong either.
Yeah,
we
probably
right
did, to be honest.
Year.
Yeah. It's been around for a while, and like you say, I think if you're looking forward into next year, you'd have to hedge your bets on AI playing a huge part in the updates that are coming. And that's a good thing as well. It'll be interesting to see what those are.
Absolutely. And we don't necessarily see that as a job replacement. This is a hot topic
No,
at the
absolutely
moment.
not.
It's not a job replacement, it's a job enhancement, right? It lets you
Exactly.
focus on the things that humans need to do, not the things that humans have had to do, right? I think that's the way that we want to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. It'll make us work better.
Hope so.
Yeah, me too.
We'll do podcasts.
Yeah, good question. Good question. I hope not.
I hope not.
Well, that was a good Gammabox. It's been a while. Thank you for coming back. Thank me for coming back. Let's not leave it so long next time, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of updates coming into the new year.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching this edition of Gammabox and for watching throughout 2024. We'll be back next year with more updates.